I'm Luke Waltzer, Director of the Teaching and Learning Center at the Graduate Center and Director of Community Projects on the CUNY Academic Commons.
I'm Julie van Peteghem. I'm an Assistant Professor of Italian in the Department of Romance Languages here at Hunter.
And I'm Jeff Allred. I'm Associate Professor of English also here at Hunter.
So today we spoke about teaching on the CUNY Academic Commons. The Commons is a WordPress BuddyPress platform for faculty and students at the City University of New York. And what it offers is an open, flexible, and robust space for faculty members to engage with their students and to structure different kinds of approaches to course materials that are possible within the educational technology projects that are supported at enterprise level at CUNY. Both Julie and Jeff are participating in a Faculty Fellows project that we're running from the Graduate Center this semester, which gets a group of faculty members together to think about teaching with open educational resources, which are freely available, remixable, reusable educational materials that are increasingly available for deployment in undergraduate courses. And the Commons team is thinking about how we can make the Commons a better space for faculty members who want to teach with these materials. That includes thinking about how to host them and to present them, but also how to structure different kinds of interactions with them. So we're working with these faculty members who come from a variety of disciplines and a variety of campuses to really kind of study how they're bringing their students to engage with these materials, and then we'll take what we learn from working with the Faculty Fellows into our development process and our support processes going forward on the Commons.
So today I spoke about the website I created for the Commons. I'm teaching my course, Prose Works of Dante, which is an Italian literature course on the Commons, and I briefly outlined what drew me to teaching on the Commons in the first place. The opportunity to have all my materials related to the course in one place, the opportunity to offer the course at zero cost, and to really take advantage of all the amazing features of the Commons and use that in my teaching. And then I showed a couple of examples of how the students have been using the Commons website so far, and I showed how I've been using one of the plugins to create a timeline that reconstructs the narrative of the first work we read in the course.
And I talked about my experience also as an OER fellow with the program that Luke is administering, and talked about a course site that I built, or actually a site and a group that I built to support my course on Blackness and inscription. So writing by African American and Caribbean writers and writing that thematizes race through the lens of media history and media theory. So the course that I built uses blogging, of course, for students to communicate and engage in critical writing that they share and kind of comment on. It also integrates a couple of other tools that the Commons affords, one of them being Hypothesis, so a platform that allows students to comment on existing texts, so primary texts. So we've been reading a wide range of slave narratives and fictional works by Charles Chestnut, and the students can kind of pop out a little window and highlight texts and write their comments on them and open up the process of reading from being kind of private hermetic practice to being much more of a social and collaborative practice. Of course, I also get in the mix and read alongside them or kind of seed the text with questions that they can then engage. So it kind of imports or exports, let's say, the kind of social dynamic of the seminar hour out into that asynchronous space of doing homework and reading from home. The second thing I talked about is a game concept called Ivanhoe, in which students and myself are playing a text rather than just reading it. So we all adopt a role in and around a literary text. In this case, it's Charles Chestnut's Conjure Tales. So students either play a character within the text, the author of the text, Charles Chestnut, or kind of paratextual characters, people who are book reviewers or editors or publishers or critics who have something to say about the text or have a relationship to the text. So that's unfolded over 4 or 5 moves on a WordPress site that's linked to our course site. So that's about it.
So the OER push at CUNY is going to affect students in a number of ways positively. One is it's going to reduce textbook costs for them pretty much across the board, starting with big intro courses that all students are required to take. But what the OER movement really, I think even more excitingly does is it encourages faculty members to think in new ways about the kinds of materials that they're teaching with and the ways that they're teaching with them. There's a student who I'm working with at the Graduate Center who is participating in this project, who's very interested in teaching language courses with language materials that are written for students in New York City, where the language experience is very different than one that students in Wichita, Kansas would have. So OER has really allowed us to think in creative ways, not only about how we reduce costs of teaching and learning materials for our students, but also in how we make sure that the materials that we're teaching with are the most appropriate for the context that we're teaching in. Also teaching in open educational spaces like WordPress-based spaces and on the CUNY Academic Commons affords students the opportunity to think about questions of digital identity, to think about questions of audience, to think about the potential permanence of the work that they're doing on the web, and both the challenges and the opportunities that creates in ways that are going to be very beneficial for them as they go through their academic career and then on to careers after that.
So the first benefit for the students is really practical and financial. So practical in that they have everything related to the course in one space, and that is not a small thing. And financial, I'm offering this course at zero cost. And that is, of course, a very great advantage for the students. And working and doing the research on the OER materials really shows you that there are a lot of materials that I really want to use in my teaching are available through that means. So it kind of opens up your world, and you're not going immediately to that one edition you're always using, but really start to think, what are some other materials I can incorporate in my syllabus. But then the other great effect that this teaching on the Commons has on the teaching, my teaching and the students, is really it forces them to think about reading and writing in new ways. A lot of the content of the course is actually already about reading and writing in the Middle Ages, and now we're kind of transporting that into a digital format. And I find it very interesting for the students to first of all, to see that there's a lot of continuity in some of the practices that they had been, that they are doing, and that a reader in the Middle Ages would be doing as well. And also to really kind of rethink how I structure my assignments and my evaluation. I really come from the format where your written work is something between you and the professor. And what I've learned through this fellowship and through attending ACERT seminars is really to open up that world and venture with the students into public writing, where the stakes are different and higher, and I see they are more engaged when something that they are working on, compiling information about a chapter in the Vita Nuova, late 13th century work, then becomes a beautiful illustrated timeline that everybody can see on the web.
I'm tempted just to say what they said and be done with it, because I share some of the same experiences and some of the same ideas about saving students the cost of the textbooks and kind of opening up new possibilities. I'll just emphasize one additional angle on many of the same things that Luke and Julie mentioned. And for me, the most exciting thing about open teaching, and this is something that's very much facilitated by teaching on the Commons, is bringing the practices of reading and writing closer together. So this it has both a figurative and almost a literal sense. I always want students, of course, like every English professor since the dawn of time, to read with a pencil in hand and sort of be, marking and writing on the text as they're consuming it and reading it. I think that these online spaces allow us to present the text in such a way that they can do this, with the same kind of highlighting and writing function, but they can do it in full view of one another and interact in and around the text in really dynamic ways. And so that's kind of the killer app for me, is being able to integrate that theoretical or abstract idea in a much more practical way into my teaching.
They're free to do so. You can log on to the Commons at commons.gc.cuny.edu or at cuny.is. All faculty members and CUNY students are free to launch sites on the Commons. ACERT is a terrific resource for connecting to other faculty here at Hunter who are teaching on the Commons. You can always email Julie and Jeff to get some guidance on how to use the Commons in your teaching here. And then there are resources available. We'll integrate the slide into this video from the Commons team to get help on setting up your site, adding your students, and to think about how to integrate it into your courses.
I'll just add that about 30 minutes ago I was teaching my class, and apropos of nothing, a student just chimed up when we were looking at the website and said, "Why does anybody use Blackboard? Why doesn't everybody use this?"